Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to send you some spring greetings from Vienna and from the Secretariat of UNCITRAL. It's my great pleasure to join you today virtually, if not in person, to celebrate the 5th annual May seminar organized by the UNCITRAL National Coordination Committee of Australia, UNCCA. Please let me acknowledge and greet the Honourable Justice Neil McCarracher, Honourable Justices, my former colleague Miss Jenny Clift, guest of honour for today's seminar. Jenny, we miss you a lot here in Vienna. Esteemed delegates and ladies and gentlemen participating in this meeting. I wish I could be in Canberra with you to share this joyous occasion. Almost 1 year has passed since my last virtual address to you, and it's been a productive year indeed, with exciting developments on issues ranging from MSMEs to dispute resolution, and very recently accessions to the CISG, and of course preparations for CISG at its 40th. But more on that to come. First, at the outset, UNCITRAL would like to acknowledge and applaud Australia's active participation as a member state of the Commission and its assistance in driving forward the Commission's mandate, including the ongoing dialogue on a range of matters between the Secretariat, the Attorney General's Department, represented today by Principal Legal Officer Melissa Jane Ford, and DFAT, represented today by Ms. Johanna Taylor. I also note with much appreciation Australia's assistance to Myanmar to adopt the UNCITRAL model law on cross-border insolvency, a topic that will be discussed today during the first session. We also have had recently discussions with DFAT about joining forces for the Technical Assistance Program on Trade and Investment in the Asia and the Pacific, and we look forward to moving it into an implementation phase. I also note the invaluable contributions of the UNCCA to the work of UNCITRAL, both in Australia and throughout the Asia-Pacific region, that must really be commended. Not only does the UNCCA serve as a role model for UNCITRAL supporting organizations in other countries and regions, but its members collaborate with the Secretariat in various missions, including most recently UNCCA Deputy Chair Dr. Dalma Demeter's collaboration with the UNCITRAL Regional Center for Asia and the Pacific in providing capacity building on the CISG to judiciary and government officials of Lao PDR in Vientiane in March of 2019. As we are gearing up to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the CISG in 2020, and in light of exciting developments such as the recent accession to the CISG of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and also Liechtenstein a couple of days ago, UNCITRAL looks forward to continued cooperation with the UNCCA and on the CISG and other issues. Now let me give you a few highlights of the latest developments in UNCITRAL's work. UNCITRAL thanks the Australian delegates for their contributions in the past years, which see the Commission moving closer and closer to accomplishing its mandate, as well as implementing the Sustainable Development Goals. As you're likely aware, 2 important texts were adopted in 2018 in the area of dispute resolution, with the objective of providing a legal framework and harmonized special mechanism for parties seeking cross-border enforcement of a settlement agreement reached through mediation. The United Nations Convention on International Settlement Agreements Resulting from Mediation, that will be known as the Singapore Convention, adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations in December of 2018, and the UNCITRAL Model Law on International Commercial Mediation and International Settlement Agreements Resulting from Mediation, as well as that is becoming the revised mediation model law. Both instruments essentially provide for a robust legal framework for mediation and will strongly contribute to promote mediation as a viable alternative means for resolving commercial disputes in a manner that preserves business relationships. This will also allow diverse cultures and legal traditions, including those in Australia and the Asia-Pacific region, to cultivate less adversarial methods and give full effect to preferences for mediation and conciliation. The Singapore Convention will be open for signing at a ceremony in Singapore on 7 August 2019. As we still hope that Australia could join others in becoming party to the Convention, I'm glad to see that the Singapore Convention is included in today's last session, as it is critical to keep up the momentum for this important convention and ensure its success. Its benefits will continue to grow as a number of signatories to the convention increases, much like how the New York Convention's near universal application has benefited and driven and supported arbitration. It's also worth noting that the Singapore Convention implements Goal 16 of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations by providing access to justice via facilitating the use of mediation to resolve cross-border commercial disputes. In this area, I should also note that the Secretariat is currently working on other tools to support and to close the framework of mediation. These are the UNCITRAL notes on mediation, providing guidance to parties, to mediators, to counsel involved in mediation, the revision of the UNCITRAL mediation rules to adapt them to the Singapore Convention, and the guide to enactment of the revised model law. Stay tuned, as these instruments will come for approval, discussion and approval by the Commission in the months of July. In the area of MSMEs, since 2013, Working Group 1 has been mandated to carry out work aimed at reducing the legal obstacles encountered by micro, small and medium-sized enterprises throughout their life cycle, and in particular in developing economies. In accordance with the mandate received, the Working Group has proceeded to consider two projects. One concerning the legal issues surrounding the simplification of incorporation, and the other good practices in business registration. The last project was completed in 2018, with the Commission adopting the UNCITRAL legislative guide on key principle of a business registry. I hope that this guide will assist policymakers and those involved in the design and implementation of business registries in simplifying and streamlining business registration procedures to facilitate and promote registration of MSMEs. In many regions of the world, MSMEs continue to operate in the informal sector. Efficient and effective business registries can help MSMEs transition to the formal sector of the economy, since when registration procedures are simple and user-centric, they allow easy access to business information, facilitate the search for potential business partners, clients, or sources of finance, and reduce risks when entering into business partnerships. Structure around 58 recommendations and attendant commentary, drawn on the lessons learned throughout the reforms of business registration systems implemented throughout the world, the guide discusses the main aspects of establishing and operating a business registry, as well as the registration and post-registration requirements of businesses. Working Group 1 is currently working to complete its other project, and I see from the program of today's event that you will be discussing it at length, which is a simplified business entity for incorporation of MSMEs. Such an entity, tentatively called UNCITRAL Limited Liability Organization, or UNLO, will provide a flexible business forum which can be used for a wide range of business and commercial activities, which is largely based on the principle of freedom of contract in its internal governance. You will hear more about this draft text in the session on MSMEs, and I'm very glad to see its timely inclusion in the seminar program. Regarding cross-border insolvency, of course, I hesitate to give you a detailed feedback and information about what UNCITRAL is doing currently, because this is the area where Jenny, who is with you today, will be much more able than me to shed light than myself. As you know, the increasing incidence of cross-border insolvency proceedings and the numerous difficulties and uncertainties associated with those proceedings have convinced member states of the need for a harmonized legal framework. UNCITRAL texts have addressed cross-border insolvency issues, beginning with the 1997 Model Law on Cross-Border Insolvency, which is enacted in 48 jurisdictions, and last year, the 2018 UNCITRAL Model Law on Recognition and Enforcement of Insolvency-Related Judgments. The upcoming Model Law on Enterprise Group Insolvency, that will hopefully be adopted by the Commission this year, will provide the much-needed framework for cooperation and coordination in cross-border insolvency proceedings affecting either a single debtor or multiple debtors belonging to the same enterprise group. The new model law would in particular allow a certain degree of centralization of insolvency proceedings relating to multiple debtors of the same enterprise group, with the goal of protecting, preserving, realizing, and enhancing the overall combined value of group members. The model law provides a number of mechanisms to achieve such centralization. In addition to the legislative texts, UNCITRAL has for several years produced practical tools of particular relevance to judges handling cross-border insolvency cases. These tools are supplemented by the collection of case law on the model law, and I would note that the Secretariat is currently preparing a digest of case law on the model law of cross-border insolvency. For your information, UNCITRAL's work in the area of insolvency law could continue in the Commission at its upcoming session, as it takes up proposal by states for future work on asset tracing and recovery and on harmonizing applicable law in insolvency proceedings. Let me turn now to the judicial sale of ships. Last December, Working Group 6 completed its work on the preparation of a practice guide on secure transactions under the chairmanship of Mr. Bruce Whitaker, whom I salute from afar, and whom you know better as the author of the Whitaker Report on the Australian PPSA. Now it will move on to a different topic, which is the judicial sale of ships, and the work on this new topic is starting next week in New York. This is not the first time that UNCITRAL has navigated into admiralty and maritime matters. In 2008, UNCITRAL concluded the Rotterdam Rules on the international carriage of goods wholly or partly by sea, which brought together UNCITRAL and the maritime sector and shipping industry. The current topic relates to the cross-border recognition of judicial sales of ships. These sales usually occur where a maritime mortgage or lien is enforced against a ship, and the claimant seeks the forced sale of the ship to recover the judgment debt. Like in Australia, judicial sales usually confer clean title on the purchaser, while the purchaser may seek to exploit by deregistering the ship from a foreign registry, free of any encumbrances, and register it in a third state. This process may be frustrated if the judicial sale is not recognized. One might say that your seminar is a week too early. This is because the first session of the Working Group 6 is taking place next week in New York, And we expect that the discussions next week will proceed on the basis of a draft convention finalized a few years back by the Comité Maritime International, the CMI, known as the Beijing Draft. Much of the CMI's work was undertaken on the presidency of Stuart Hetherington, whose presence I acknowledge at today's seminar as well. I wish to congratulate the CMI for its tremendous effort in preparing the Beijing Draft, a true feat in consultation and drafting, and in promoting the topic at UNCITRAL. Of course, as a member of UNCITRAL, Australia is invited to participate in sessions of the working group. But this time, we are also looking forward to the participation of the Australian judiciary through Justice McCarracher, who will be representing the International Association of Judges. The legal and procedural experience of Justice McCarracher as coordinating judge of the Federal Court's Admiralty and Maritime National Practice area should be of great assistance to the working group, and we look very much forward to your contribution to the work, Your Honor. I would urge you all to watch on as this project plots a course over the coming years. Regarding investor-state dispute settlement reform, a short summary of where we stand. The reform of ISDS is another topic on the current agenda of UNCITRAL, as you know. The most recent session of the Working Group 3 in New York in April saw a historic total of 400 delegates, including over 106 states and about 70 observer organizations participating in the government-led process to continue identifying concerns regarding ISDS and to commence work on the development of relevant solutions for ISDS reform in line with the third phase of this working group's mandate. We have benefited in the working group from a strong and committed Australian presence, and we're very grateful for it. The working group agreed to develop multiple potential reform solutions simultaneously, and for that purpose, a project schedule will be prepared to move the proposed solutions forward in parallel. In conclusion, I'm very pleased that many of the current UNCITRAL topics will be discussed today. This year's program and speakers promise a very fruitful discussion, useful deliberations and exchanges of views. The progressive harmonization of international trade law, the removal of trade and investment barriers, as well as the creation of a sound business environment are shared interests of Australia, the UNCCA and UNCITRAL. It's not an easy task, but we continue to count on your contributions and support to achieve those goals. My sincere appreciation to all of you. I wish you a successful seminar today. Thank you very much, and once again, send you the greetings from the UNCITRAL Secretariat in Vienna. Thank you and bye-bye.